Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick here, dropping in on you. Hope everybody's having an unbelievable uh, start to your weekend. As for me, it has been a very challenging week, a productive week. We are progressing and advancing in the things that we're aspiring to do at Rick Wallace Enterprises and its subsidiaries, one of which is Odyssey Media Group and Publishing. Um, those who don't know me or unaware of who I am and just happen to pass by this real brief segment. Number one is there is a link in the description box that's connected to my bio. You can get a real good understanding of who I am, what I've done over the course of my life that qualifies me to talk about the things that I share with you guys. With that being said, look, if you've ever aspired to write a book, publish an article, become a professional writer, and you have had frustrations or you don't know where to start, look, I want to help. I've actually been helping. Tell you a little bit about my story, and then I'm going to tell you how I'm going to help you. Well, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to help you, then I'll tell you a little bit about my story. On Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, it is November the 2nd, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to do a free webinar on publishing your first book, publishing a journal, publishing a workbook, publishing your work, period, copywriting, and a bunch of other things that I'm going to explain to you in a minute. I'm going to talk you through the process from concept to profits, from the pen to profits. I am going to show you a bunch of different things, but I'm going to give it to you free. And I can tell you that what I'm going to share with you I have at least 3 colleagues, people who are publishers or authors that do this, that teach courses like this, that are charging $3,500 and up for what I'm going to give you for free. And the reason I'm doing it is because I know that there are so many things you need to understand before you can either see the value in a course like that. So I want you to be able to see what it takes to get from point A to point Z. So here's my story. I have been a writer as far back as I can remember, at least back to middle school. Really start taking it serious in high school when I went into journalism. I played football, and my coach was dating the journalism teacher. And he told her about me, and I ended up anyway in her class. They ended up getting married. Sort of took me as a surrogate kid because I was being reared by my great grandmother and my great grandfather. They were a lot older, so it was a lot of age gap. My coach and wife were younger, and they took me under their wing, and she stayed on top of me along with my English teacher about my writing. I've been an avid reader since I was toddling. So the reading came first, the speaking came right after the reading, and then the writing came. Those are my passions. That's how I'm wound and built and wired and what I love doing. But long story short, my journalism teacher knew I didn't know my father, that I had an absentee father who passed away, and I didn't know him. And she knew how it impacted me, and she encouraged me to do research and write an article. And I wrote an article entitled The Invisible Father. That article got national recognition. She got it published on a national level in some local newspapers and periodicals, and she obviously published it in the school newspaper. From that point on, she just kept pushing me, and I always said I was going to write a book on the same topic because it was so much more than what I could put in an article. And I wrote that. That was my first book, The Invisible Father, Reversing the Curse of a Fatherless Generation. I've since published 25 books. But when I wrote that book, I was excited about it. I've got my first work down. I'm going to talk about the processes of how you write. I'll share that with you, but I want to get you to the point of understanding that there's a process that comes after the writing that you have to at least understand, that is so convoluted and misrepresented in the grand scheme of things of the media. I want to bring it home to you, put it in front of you, and I want you to have access to it. And then you can start thinking about how you're going to put things together. Because if you're going to be effective at this, if you're going to be good at it, if you're going to make money at it, you're going to have to understand budgeting, marketing, so much more than just writing. And I'm going to talk to you and show you all of that. But here, what happened is I found it was a lot more difficult to find a publisher than I had been led to believe. Well, all the publishers that read my work, and I have to admit, and I'm grateful that at least 4 publishers took the time to take it and have someone read it. Got the same, pretty much the same thing. It's extremely well written. It's checkable. The facts are on point. The problem is it's aimed at a target audience that we don't think will buy. We don't see how it's a good investment because, see, publishing companies understand that writing the book is just the first part. Putting it in front of the right people, getting those people interested into it and buying it. You're talking about an entire media marketing plan that has to play out pre-launch and post-launch. I didn't know any of this at the time. I just, hey, I write a book, publisher gets it, you put it on the shelf, people buy it. That's not how it works. I'm going to show you how it works. But anyway, what I did is after I got that same answer 4 or 5 times, it's well written. It's definitely some people that help, but we don't think the people that help will really buy it. I don't really have to tell you what they were really saying to me. The problem is, in a lot of senses, the statistics show that they weren't just talking out of the side of the neck. They do their research. They understand what groups spend money on books and which groups don't. And the thing is, the people who that book would have helped and really inspired the most probably wouldn't be people who are going to be avid readers. So there wasn't a big target audience. So what I decided to do was understand self-publishing. But then when I started looking at self-publishing, I said, no, I want to create a mechanism where I can do it my way, my time, my brand, so I want control of it from the beginning to the end. I realized I can become a publisher. Whoa. So instead of thinking of things, when I write now, I don't write as an author. I write as a publisher who happens to be an author. Why? Because if I think like a publisher, I'm thinking about my target audience. I'm thinking about market. I'm thinking about pre-launch. I'm thinking about teasers. I'm thinking about all the things that a publisher has to think about to ensure that this is not just a fulfilling endeavor or project, that it is a profitable project, and that's it. Here's the other thing. Since I started my publishing company, now here's the beautiful thing though. Let me stop. The beautiful thing out of all of that, and it's just a fulfilling thing to me, is I finally got a publishing deal from a publisher outside of myself. It took some time. It took years after I had written 15 books already, but my 16th book is through Publishing out of New York, who came to me and actually asked me, based on what I had written, based on some of the lectures they had seen, to write a book on a particular topic. That book was The Miseducation of Black Youth in America. That was my 16th book. I've written 9 since then, but to sit up and say, go from someone saying, we can't publish you, you're probably not going to get published because the vein that you're operating in doesn't have a lot of readers. That book, the 16th book, is in universities now. There are literally economics courses and educational courses that are using that as a part of their curriculum. But that's a whole nother thing. But it started with me simply saying, I'm not going to be denied. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to work it out. And that's with anything in life, no matter what it is, no matter when someone tells you no, you don't have to accept no as the final answer. You have to sit up and say, okay, that's not the path I'm going to travel to make it happen. And you find a way to get it done. So what I did is I learned everything there is. I mean, there's so much to publishing that people don't understand. And one of the things, the problems I get when people come to me for help in publishing their book or getting their book published, one of the things I realize is there's so many things that come along with a lack of preparation, lack of systematic engagement, a lack of understanding marketing, design, formatting, but more importantly, they did not put together a publishing budget, something that says, okay, this is the amount of money that I have to spend on getting it done. Because there are just things you need to know about: copywriting, you need to know about trademarking, you need to know about cover design, interior formatting, spacing, and so many other things that are part of this that when you self-publish, they don't tell you, and they'll just let you upload it and, tell you, hey, this is it, check it out, and publish it, and it'll be out there and people will pick it up and they'll go, it's not readable, it's not presentable, it's not professional. And I've actually redone some books for people so that it meets a certain standard. But all of these things are things that I had to learn on the fly. So obviously the first book wasn't the best book, although it was the most meaningful because it was my first. It wasn't the best. And so I've learned and I developed it. And so now I'm going to start teaching it. But instead of sitting up saying, hey man, this is what I've done, I'm gonna charge you X amount of dollars. What I want to do is I want to invite people who are really passionate about something into a space where the first time they encounter something, it's not in their, it's not reaching into their pocketbooks. Are you going to have to spend money to be a good published author, especially if you're talking about building uh, a, profitable environment where your projects make money? Because I think if you're really passionate about it, you're going to do it more than one time. If you're really passionate about it, you're probably going to help other people. The beautiful thing about me is anybody that wants to be published and is serious about being published, I can get them published. Now it's depending on what you want to do and how you want to do it, but I can get you there. I can get you from point A to point Z. I can get you on the shelves of Barnes and Noble, Sony Books, Kobo Books, Amazon, all the places where people are going to buy books. I can get you there. But it took time for me to learn that. I want to teach you that. I want to teach you the processes of what it takes to get there. Even if you're never going to open a publishing company, you want to know what it takes to make it profitable for publishing. You want to know what it takes to publish it so that you have an understanding of how you're going to present it to any publisher you want to pitch it to. I'm going to answer the question, do you need a literary agent? Do you need an agent to represent you? Or can you do it on your own? What are some of the processes? We're in a technological age that allows for so much. But we're going to go through a bunch of different things. But I want to teach you to think like a publisher more than an author. Why? Because when you think like a publisher, you cover the back end. When you think like an author, all you're thinking about is the finished product of writing. And there's so much that goes along with that. Matter of fact, before you start writing, you should already have an understanding of your market. You have done marketing research, created a marketing analysis, come up with a publishing budget based on that marketing analysis, know your approach, have a level of customer intelligence. In other words, the people in that target audience are driven by certain factors: emotionally, psychologically, economically, socioeconomically, politically. Know the understanding of that so you know how to present it to them. You can get their feedback. Social media is a good testing ground for what people are thinking in any area. There are groups about every topic, whatever you're writing on. Find those groups, put questions out there, post, see what people are saying. They're going to tell you how to sell them. They're going to tell you how to write to them. They're going to tell you what makes them move, what makes them tick. You want something that you're not just writing, but something that works, something that people, when they get it, they're going to give it to somebody else. Say, you got to check this out. Why? Because that's going to develop your brand. That's going to develop and propel your book. There's also ways to keep your book relevant. There's a reason why Think and Grow Rich is still a #1 bestseller. And it's not just because it worked, because there are some books out there that are equally as good or better. But there's a reason Think and Grow Rich is always at the top of the list. There's a reason why The Alchemist is still bumping. There's a reason why The Science of Getting Rich. There's a reason why As a Man Thinketh are still hitting 100 years later. And you can create that type of longevity when you understand it. So we're going to talk about the marketing side of it. We're going to talk about the preparation. We're going to talk about, do you want to do on-demand printing versus offset printing? On-demand printing is basically when you get an order, you send that order to your printer and they print the books then. So there's no need for inventory in stock. So that's one way to do it, but it does take a little longer than if you have it on hand. There are variations of that. We're going to talk about all that. And I'm going to give you the basic structure of how you get started, what you do, writing processes to the end, your how to put together a book media kit, press releases, all of the stuff that needs to be a part of releasing and launching a book. A book launch, when done correctly, can be profitable, and it can be fun, or it can be a nightmare and cost you money. There's a way to get past that. And so I want to teach you guys that from a point of just saying, I just want to write a book and get it published. I can do that for you, and we can talk about that. But also, I want to make this like a business for me. I'm passionate enough about writing that I want to write, but I want to help other people who write too. And if that's the case, then you want to look at how to publish. And there's so many other things to publish outside of just your average traditional book. For instance, man, my trusted friend right here, this is called a high performance planner, and it's published it was designed and published by Brendan Burchard. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a motivational speaker, a serial entrepreneur, and a bunch of other things. But the way that this thing is set up, and these are just some of the entries. I don't know if you can see it because of the light, but But these are some of the entries. I don't want you to necessarily read my stuff, but hey, some of the entries. And it's set up. It's not your average planner where you just go put something in the square. It's going to ask you questions. It forces you to journal in the morning and at night. It forces you to log time and talk about things. It keeps you focused. It definitely has helped me a lot. I've been using it now probably for 2 years. And, you know, you can get the 1 year version. I think it's a 1 year version, but the one I get is like the 3 month version. So every 3 months, I'm going through one of these. And as you can see, that whole thing, that whole page is lit up. And because it's challenging you to push your thought processes and test your thought processes and so much. There's actually someone who teaches people how to publish these journals. And as I speak, I'm trying to make a connection with that person so that I can connect them with you. That's not my area of expertise, but I want people who actually have that kind of mindset to get into the idea that there's so much you can publish. You can publish cards, you can publish workbooks. There's a need for workbooks. People will write a book and tell you a bunch of things, but when you got a workbook that comes with the book or in correspondence with the book or with correspondence with an idea or a style that can literally walk you through and you have to participate by writing in it, there's an exchange that happens. There is a dynamic that takes place when the brain is connected. That's why I still write a lot with my hands. Why? Because there's something connected to that versus typing. And so there's a there's more personality involved, but there's also a literal connection between the brain and the hand and the way it's done. So writing with your hand and journaling is real important. Anyway, if you are interested, it's absolutely free. It's next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And be prepared. Make sure you're ready to take notes and ask questions. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your day. I'm pretty sure you're going to hear from me about something. But until then, have a great day. As I always say, I live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. On that note, I'm out of here.